All right, welcome back to another episode of Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside my co-host, Hilary Roberts. How you doing, dear?
I'm fantastic.
Nice. You had a big week last week. How'd the national anthem go at the Rocky Stadium?
Man, it was amazing. I was so scared. I haven't sung that in so long, like probably 12 years.
Yeah, so let's talk about that though, because you've had a phenomenal singing career, but you've also had a lot of missed opportunities, and one was actually singing the national anthem at the Colorado Rockies Stadium in the 90s. But due to your substance abuse, addictions, a lot of those opportunities were lost. So how'd that feel?
It was amazing. It was. I literally found out 2 weeks beforehand, and it was a sober person who has an amazing foundation that set it up for me and submitted me to the Colorado Rockies. I had ruined that back during their inaugural year, and I had even lost my singing voice. But I couldn't get, I couldn't get out of being stuck. It's like I was drinking, drugging, couldn't make it out to sing, and then eventually lost my voice. But my brother was there, my cousins, my brother's wife, my nephew. It was amazing. And then there were like 600 sober people.
That's
there.
So rad.
And
I think that just goes to show though, that's like, it's never too late. Right. It's been 24 years of sobriety now. And so it's been over 25 years that you were wanting to do stuff like this and have your dreams come to fruition. And, for those of you that are listening that don't know, there's, we have some relationships within Major League Baseball. And now this has opened up doors for Hilary to sing at multiple other stadiums for the national anthem. So,
it's such an honor for me because after being sober a while and being able to sing again, one of the big things I did was I was able to sing for our military and for the guys that had their arms blown off, their legs blown off, and it was a Helping a Hero gala, and they were crutching up to me and in wheelchairs and thanking me for singing our national anthem and Wind Beneath My Wings, and I was like crying, going, "Oh my gosh, you protect our country!" And so for me, I love our country so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate our military, and I don't know, it just was such an honor. I was terrified, but then I just prayed and gave it to God, and bam.
What I'm talking about. Nice. So I'm glad that all went really well.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's bring on our guest. We got a special guest from our boy Ethan today. So
yeah. Okay. So today we are joined by Sober Coaching founder Aaron Barnes. Aaron is a nationally certified recovery coach, sober companion, interventionist, personal trainer, author, and prominent sober influencer. Aaron's passion for inspiring others comes from his own 20-year struggle with substance abuse, which is what we wanted to get into today. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Hilary and Jason, for having me. Thank you very much.
Of course, man. I got a little bit of your backstory. This is going to be a good one today. It was you got a story, brother. You got a story, but before we get into that, I want to know what you wanted to be when you grew up.
I played a lot of sports, so I thought, like a lot of kids, I have some big sports dreams that fizzled quite early as I realized how much time it took to become a professional athlete. So, I didn't really know, other than just that general, started young, want to be Spider-Man, right? And then went into professional athlete, and then on to, I have no idea. So
what sports did you play?
I liked sales. I played them all. I was one of those kids that did whatever season it was, was what sport I was playing. I just kind of rotated through baseball, football, basketball, track. And so I played most all of them, just depend on seasonal. My parents were pretty good about keeping me actively involved in little league sports, and played all the way through some of high school. And yeah.
Nice. Did any of that pursue into college?
No, golf was a potential opportunity for me to go, but I lost my competitive nature somewhere along the way. My later years in high school, I just kind of lost my competitive nature when it comes to athletics. So it fizzled. So, and I think I just enjoyed the camaraderie of playing golf more than anything, than the competitive side of it.
Well, let's talk about that. Besides you being a Swiss Army knife for sports, what was the deterioration for you of, I understand the lack and luster of, the competitive sports, but I'm guessing there was something that happened there.
To put a finger on it, I think when it was early mid-high school, I think when I moved from Missouri to Nebraska, I had never been to Nebraska, and I was going to be a junior in high school, and my family moved, and I think that that need for acceptance. If I really look back at it, and my upbringing was one thing, but I think that really, I just wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to fit in, and I wanted friends, and I wanted to meet people. I was a very social person. I've always been a people person. And so to be the new kid in a new state, going into, moving, I think we moved at the beginning of the summer, my going to be junior year. So then not only could I not start school, but I'm in this new city. I don't know a single person. And this is going to be a long, cruel summer. So I think I really started, that's kind of where it started, I think, for me, to as far as the need for acceptance.
Right. Where did you move from? Sorry, where were you originally?
Springfield, Missouri area is where I grew up. Springfield and Ozark, Missouri area. So southern Missouri. Yeah. So it was a shock to the system.
Sure.
To move to a whole nother state at that age and not know a soul.
Right.
So literally, yeah.
So what was it like for you growing up? Did your parents stay married, or was it stable? Was it not stable?
Overall, it was stable. I mean, I didn't have a bad childhood by any means. I had my parents were together. They recently were divorced. They are recently divorced, but they were together. I have twin sisters who are amazing.
Are they younger or older?
They were a year and a half older.
Okay.
They were always, you hear the story of there's the good kids and then the black sheep. Well, I gotta wear that label, right? So I was always, so they were always never, yeah.
You're talking to a couple right here, okay? So
I think a lot of people in recovery were the black sheep, right? I think that kind of comes with the territory a little bit. But they were, I had a good childhood. I mean, I was raised in for a good part of my childhood, or I should say early teenage years and adolescent years, in a pretty strong religious structure where there was a lot of religion, I guess is how I can put it. And whether I liked it or not, we were a religious family and followed some very strict guidelines and adhered to them. Which I think played a little bit of my rebellion when I got to college, which we can talk about, where things really, really, the rubber hit the road for me in using and drinking.
I understand the transition and wanting the feeling to fit in, especially moving, didn't just move down the road or a different city. You moved to a different state. And, to try that feeling of wanting to fit in, right? I mean, especially at that age is a huge proponent, but what became the point when you needed an outlet, and where did you get that freedom from drugs or alcohol?
So it was probably my freshman year of college was the launch pad.
Wow. Okay.
I began. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. I think it was a lot. I think it was dormant is maybe a good way to look at it. Because in the religion I was raised in, drugs and alcohol were just taboo. You just didn't do it.
May we ask what religion? What religion was it?
I was raised Mormon.
Okay, yeah.
I was raised Mormon. And so what happened, I think, was I had no skills. I was wet behind the ears. And meaning we just didn't do it. We didn't talk about why we didn't do it so much or the dangers of it. It's just we don't do that. It's not part of our protocol, if that makes sense.
It was just black and white.
Yeah, it's like we don't do it. It's they called it the word of wisdom, actually. The word of wisdom and was drugs, alcohol, nicotine, et cetera, et cetera. But I really didn't have any foundation or examples. My grandfather was an alcoholic but I really didn't understand it. It was kind of sheltered from me a little bit. And so I didn't have a lot of understanding of drugs and alcohol by the time I graduated high school. I knew what they were. I knew kids that did them. But it really wasn't part of my everyday life at home at all. There was no drugs or alcohol in the home. And so I guess I just came in pretty unaware of what, my freshman year of college or the summer before my freshman year of college was going to present to me.
So your first drink or substance was as a freshman in college?
Yeah, so I started lifeguarding after I graduated at a water park and met some guys, great guys. Nothing bad to say about these guys at all. They were just college guys, doing what college guys do.
Sure.
Right. And became friends with them and quickly got interested in pledging a fraternity. Because I thought, oh, cool. I really don't have that many friends from high school. So this sounds like a great way to have a bunch of new friends all at the same time. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And hindsight, right? And 20 is maybe a little bit different. But so I started hanging out with them and quickly socializing with the college guys and the frat guys. And along with that came, a lot of drinking, binge drinking, keg parties, fake IDs, all revolved around alcohol. And I, not too long after I got that job, I got an apartment and with a guy, and, got quickly exposed to drugs. Drugs just found their way to us. We were in that hangout party, good, have a good time environment. And it wasn't too long, and I remember snorting my first rail of cocaine right off of my countertop in my apartment. I was 18 years old.
Dude, so you didn't waste any time, man. You was freaking off to the races, bro.
Yeah, I hit the accelerator pretty quick. Yeah, I did the accelerated addiction plan, and but then it was just from there on. That I think what happened was we started going to the bars and going to the nightclubs and going to these parties, and there was just drugs everywhere. The ecstasy was something we did almost every weekend. It seemed like hallucinogenics, cocaine, and it all just seemed like good fun at the time. Bad hangovers with a good the good, what they say, it's the best times you'll never remember.
Yeah,
it seemed like we were just doing what college kids do. That's how it felt to me. There was no inherent risk. It seemed like at the time, I was just kind of going to school and partying, drinking, and drugging, and going to school.
So what happened? What drove you off course? When did you really know that you were off the rails?
Well, I think it was a chain of events that started to really put me in a bad place where the need to escape rapidly escalated.
Escape from what?
From the way I felt about myself and some things that I had no control over, and some pretty difficult decisions I had to make at a young age.
But which work? Do you mind diving into some of that?
Yeah, of course. I don't mind sharing. I'm always an open book about my journey. So I started, when I got into using drugs in this environment, it wasn't long after where I thought, gosh, you can make a little extra money if we buy some extra and split it up and sell it. It seemed like so innocent at the time. I was like, gosh, everybody's always around us and they're always asking us for drugs. I'm like, why don't we start just, buying a little bit more and then breaking it up and selling it? So one thing led to another, and I was dealing drugs. Mm-hmm. And then one thing led to another, like, hey, maybe we can buy it cheaper if we buy it closer to the border.
Right.
And next thing I know, I'm trafficking drugs. Yeah. And I'm like, holy smokes, this went from 0 to 100 really fast. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trafficking drugs and selling drugs, and we got involved in stolen goods, and it just, for some reason, I think it's because I really, guys, felt I didn't have. It's like I was just blind to it all. It just, I had no, I think I was rebelling so hard, or I was trying to soar my wings, or find myself, or maybe just be accepted, because there was a lot of people around that really like you when you have drugs for sale, and when you have out keggers at your apartment all the time, you have loads and loads of people that want to be around you. So it's like that subconscious need for acceptance was really playing into this lifestyle, and it like I said, it really did get out of hand very, very quickly. Well, within that time frame, while I was doing some drug trafficking and so forth, partying, almost every night, I dropped out of school. I'm like, I'll just take a semester off. I'm making all this money. School was school. I was never good at school anyway. It was not my thing. So I was like, maybe just a semester off. And that, of course, was the beginning of the end of my college career. Mm-hmm. Right. And in that time, I had met a girl, and we started dating, and it wasn't too long, and she became pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so then, now I'm a kid about to have a kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so she had about enough of my shenanigans. Not long after the baby was born, I tried to be a dad, but I was a poor excuse for a father, as you can probably imagine, doing and selling drugs and drinking all the time, and the people I was hanging out with, and everybody was having a good time. I didn't want to go be a dad. I didn't have any skills to be a dad. I barely could, take care of myself. So she moved away, and that was probably my first big blow in life, where she moved away and took our daughter, and it was very painful. And I felt a very big void and like a failure. And I think also because of my Mormon background, where family is such a strong part of their religion. The family is a huge part of their infrastructure, and they talk about it a lot, how important it is. I felt like I had already started off ruining a family. I had a child out there halfway across the country that I never spoke to or saw, and they vanished into thin air, and I didn't see her from the time she was 3 years old until she was 18.
Wow. Holy cow, bro.
So yeah, that's round one. That's just round one. And it's a void. I think then that now I had the need for acceptance piled on with this huge void and some shame and guilt, right? That those two famous words in addiction, shame and guilt. I had a lot of shame and guilt from from this situation. And so I think I drank and used even more to numb and mask the feelings I had about myself and the mess I thought I'd created, and had no idea how I was going to fix it.
So relatable, man. Wow. So where did this end up? I mean, because ultimately we all understand. I mean, you're saying this is just the first round, but I mean, where did this end up taking you to where, you ended up getting a moment of clarity where you're like, look, this is enough's enough.
Well, I had 2 more rounds of this. A couple years later, I ended up meeting another girl, and she got pregnant.
Damn, bro.
At least I know my sperm count works, right? I mean, yeah, I guess that was always something we could be sure of. What do they say? Some people have, 10 DUIs. I have none in all my years, but I have 3 kids with 3 women.
Damn.
Yeah.
So this was round 2. My other beautiful daughter, and again, I love my children to death, just with all my heart. This was just part of what pushed me into this downward spiral. And so then my second daughter was born, and me and her mother did not get along at all from a situation that happened early in the pregnancy. And I made a very difficult decision to give her up for adoption. And so now, because she was getting remarried and I knew it was the best for her, I knew it was going to be much better for her to have a stable life versus 2 parents that were at each other's throat. And I thought I was doing the right thing. It was a very difficult decision.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And so now I got 2 kids with 2 women, and I don't see either one of these children. And so now I've got a pile that's mounting of shame and guilt and the need to escape. And so yeah, that led into I ended up meeting my son's mother, who we dated for quite a while, 8 years, and she got pregnant when I was about 30, and we got married for a short period, I think 3 months, something like that. But I was in no place to get married to anybody. But she got pregnant, and I had my son, and so now I'm in my about 30 years old. Went through a pretty ugly divorce too, which was a very hard thing when you go through a nasty divorce. Mm-hmm. So now I got 3 kids with 3 women. I'm a known drug user. I was kind of a known playboy because I had some financial success at an early age with my career. So I kind of had all the cars and cool stuff, and went on trips all the time. So I kind of had this lifestyle that I had created myself, or this image that I had created. Mm-hmm. And I guess I had no idea who I was, how I was going to get out of this, what I was going to do. I lost custody of my son for a while because of my drug use, and my stints in rehab were used against me in a court of law. And so I lost custody of my son. So now I got 3 kids and no custody of any of them, and I'm fighting tooth and nail just to even see him. And it was tough. It was a pretty rough battle. And So I think when I got divorced when I was 38, guys, to kind of bring it to when I finally got sober, in those years, by the way, I had gone to rehab a couple times, mainly from family insinuating that, hey, you may need to get some help. You're doing all these drugs, and just seems like your life's in shambles, and you need some help. And so I went to treatment, IOP, tried PHP, I tried sober living. And that was by the time I was 30. I'd gone to treatment twice. And so for the next 8 years, I went into a very dark, ugly place of drug addiction, to the point where I was, I think I was 36 years old when oxycodone took hold of me. And then I thought I'd found my drug, the drug of my dreams, as some people call it, where they find that one drug that helps them escape to the level that they feel that they need to escape at.
Yeah.
And by the time I got those, that was it. I was hooked almost instantly, and I didn't need cocaine anymore. I didn't need anything. I had opioids, and that's all I needed. And that became my love affair for a couple years, to the point where I was a full blown drug addict. And Yeah, so that was about 36 years old.
So it was almost like you were somewhat functioning in the earlier stages. I mean, not really, but I mean, at least you're able to get by and do stuff like that. But then it became
Yeah,
into a full fledged, just total unmanageability. So
100%. 100%.
what was that turning point though, where you were just like, I mean, again, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate that, the vulnerability and the humility, because by expressing vulnerability, it creates humility. And there's a lot of people that listen to this show that aren't even close to, they've gone through what you've gone through, but they are not close to being able to talk about it.
Right.
And it's so important. I mean, just for me, especially just as a reminder, just to throw it out there. I mean, I just had a newborn. I got a 4-year-old daughter and a brand new son as of a couple of weeks ago. And it's just a reminder though, because I was in treatment. I was actually in detox when my daughter was born. And this type of story though it's helping me. It's as a reminder of where I don't want to go. I mean, I'm just letting you know it's very empowering. But again, going back to you though, what was that turning point? I mean, because it sounds like you had a multitude of opportunities to transition, but you wanted to keep digging.
Yeah, I wasn't ready, right? Until
Yeah.
you're ready, there's nothing anyone can say or do to make you ready.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so I was 38 years old. I was at the point where I was in bed almost every day, laying in my own pool of sweat, having those horrible body aches that opioids produce, from withdrawal, in and out of withdrawal, right? Just trying to keep enough opioids in my system, and my tolerance kept going higher to where I couldn't keep enough in keep them because I had a prescription, but then they'd run out, a week when it was supposed to last a month.
Yep.
And so,
I get that.
you know the story, right? Yeah, you know the story. And then I'd go buy them on the street. And so my finances were going completely. My little nest egg was rapidly deteriorating. And because I was buying drugs on the street, and I was buying them in huge doses. And so finances were plummeting. My health was plummeting. I was fully addicted. I was in the ER every couple of weeks just because I was, I'd hit withdrawal and I felt like I was dying, and, they'd take me to the ER and give me some fluids, and then the cycle would repeat. So it got to the point where I was bedridden, and my mother, had reached out to a treatment center, begging for help. She remembered a place I'd talked about years before, and she reached out to them and asked if there was anything way they could help her because her son was dying, and they were scared, like a lot of families are when someone's a full-blown drug addict, and so she was able to orchestrate getting me into treatment, and she helped me. She walked in my room one day and said, "Hey, Aaron, stand up. You're going to treatment." And that was it. That was the turning point. And so I really, I owe my mom, my whole family, but I owe my mom a lot. She's an angel and a saint.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful, Aaron. So
Yeah.
when you hit that turning point, so what are the things that you started to do and that you do to maintain? What are the solutions, and what do you do to maintain this new life that you have?
Well, Hilary, when I got to treatment, I surrendered, and you hear that word a lot in this, and I knew that I was going to die if I did not get sober.
Yeah.
And so I really surrendered, and I think once I got into detox, right, I got to detox, I was just so relieved to be unhooked, to be physically unhooked off opioids.
Yeah.
There was a sense of relief that I was so grateful for, and there was just overwhelming feeling of gratitude just not to be physically hooked on opioids anymore.
Sure.
And so the treatment place I went to, they were very big into the philosophy that this is something that you can overcome. They said this is something that you can break the cycle of. They had a philosophy and still do that. I hate to use this word, I don't want to upset anyone, but they do believe in a cure.
Okay.
And so for to each their own in this journey.
Sure.
But in my journey, something about that resonated. I was like, what if I don't have to be an addict for the rest of my life? What if, Aaron, you don't have to, do certain things, that you can truly be free of this? What if? And something inside of me, guys, shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like that moment of hope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I had. I just had that moment of hope, that moment of clarity. And I thought, okay, because I always thought I was a pretty resilient guy, and, pretty determined and hardworking, all these things. And I just took that little glimmer of hope that I was given. And something inside of me it was like I just took off like the phoenix. I was like, yeah, I am going to break this cycle, and I don't want to be an addict for the rest of my life. I don't want to do this anymore. And I started in treatment. I had a little bit of a spiritual awakening. I don't want to talk about it too much, only because when I do share this, sometimes people ask me like, well, how do you do that? Tell me how you do that. How'd you do that? How'd you have that moment? And I'm like, I can't recreate it. I can't give it to you. I can't explain how it happened.
Right.
But I was sitting in a men's group one day inside this treatment center, and I just remembered like something happened. Like there was this dynamic shift in my perspective. And I remember sitting there going, hey man, I don't think I'm ever going to drink or use drugs again. And it just like this weird thing happened. They say when you have a spiritual awakening, something happens, but you can't explain it to other people. And something happened that day where I just felt like this, like I felt free.
Right.
Wow.
And it was like, but then of course I was scared because I was like, I knew I would never drink or use again in my mind. That's what I told myself. But I'm like, Aaron, but you know better. You know how powerful this is. And you've heard everyone say that, oh yeah, they get the pink cloud and all this confidence, right? And then they just, so I hit the gas on it. I said, okay, what do I got to do now to nurture this feeling and to really ensure that if this is how you feel and this is the direction you're going, that there is no going back. And that was March of 2015.